And we are live.
We are.
Hello, hello.
Yep.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Um, I'm Rebecca, and I just want to make sure that, okay, I see it. Um, all right, great. Hey, James. Oh, James is heading out. James, if you're still here, hello. Hope you have a great day. Well, hi, everyone. I'm Rebecca. I'm from OpusClip. Today, joining me is Nick and Sebastien, both of whom are experts on different platforms in terms of growth and content creation. So today, it's all about um, like Q&A sessions. If you have any questions about video editing, content creation, or growth in general, feel free to drop this on the chat. And Nick and Sebastian are more than happy to answer this. So before we start, Nick and Sebastian, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sebastien, after you.
All right, well, hello everyone. My name is Sebastien Jefferies. I'm a full-time content creator and I have been so for about a year or so. I started creating content ever since the first lockdown, primarily on TikTok, and then I merged over to Instagram, did a bit of YouTube, and now here I am today, almost over 800,000 followers combined. So yeah, I teach people photography, videography, editing tips, all the fancy new AI tools, all of that. So that's who I am and that's what I do.
Fantastic. I mean, not to brag on you, but you're actually over 900. If you
am I?
factor in YouTube and then, all the other accounts, yeah, you're actually over 900. So crush it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I'm at 900 myself. And I've been a content creator for over 9 years. I've been full-time for about 7 years. So what I do is I teach people how to thrive on YouTube. So, content creators that are making content on YouTube or anywhere else that want to come onto YouTube and learn the ins and outs of, being a content creator on YouTube. That's basically my jam.
I have to ask you some tips and tricks and
Oh, dude, yeah. Yeah. DM's always open.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining today. And before we start the main section of this live stream, I just want to do some housekeeping first. So as same with last live stream, we will do giveaway draws for 3 times. So if you want to enter the giveaway to potentially win 10 hours of credits, feel free to comment OpusClip in the group chat and make sure that the O and C are capitalized and there is no space in between OpusClip. And all right, let's do a quick say hi. Hi, everyone. Oh, this is Nick. Perfect. Hi, everyone. So let's start with our very first question. And as I mentioned, if you have any questions, feel free to drop this in the comments box. Nick and Sebastian will answer this. Let's start with this one. What are some creative ways to stand out from the crowd and capture attention? And this, of course, applies to different platforms, whether it's YouTube or Instagram or TikTok.
Nick, do you want to start off on this one? Or
Yeah,
should I?
absolutely. Yeah, so when it comes to standing out on any platform, the very first thing to understand is that you are the key element when it comes to the thing that's going to stand out. So everybody responds to different content creators in different ways. That's why you see a lot of people that make the same content, but then people will gravitate to certain personalities, and then certain personalities will have, different groups of people that resonate with them compared to the others, or there'll be some crossover here and there, but they'll mainly pick a particular creator. So you are the key element. However, other things that are really helpful is to go in and analyze everything that everybody else in your space is doing. So for example, if you are uploading content, like let's say to YouTube, and everybody in your space is uploading, hour-long videos, then in that particular case, you might add some freshness to the space if you start putting up 30-minute videos or 10 or 15-minute videos. If everybody in your space has a certain aesthetic to the content that they're putting out. Then in that particular case, if you did something a little bit different, that would also be a way to stand out. In addition to that, it can come down to the value that you're providing. So, in some cases, people will structure their stories in one way, and that'll cause them to stand out. Other people will do it in another way. If you are somebody that shares information of any kind, then in that particular case, you could be the person that gives it all. Compared to a lot of people that reserve the information so that they can sell stuff to people. So when it comes to, standing out, there's a lot of different avenues, but the first thing that you have to do is you have to understand your space. You got to understand, what it is that you're up against so that you can look for opportunities to stand out.
Yeah, and I think to add on top of that, especially super important when it comes to video content as well, is you want to kind of make a bit of an effort to make your content stand out visually. Like you can tell in mine and Nick's backgrounds, they're very different, but they're also very interesting. And, if you're trying to hit a certain demographic, for instance, like I specialize in like photography and tech and all of that, like having all these neon lights in the background is going to, when someone swipes, for example, on TikTok or Instagram, they're going to be like, wow, that's completely different to, let's say, for example, Rebecca's background, where it's a plain sort of generic background. We've put in the effort to put, make it a bit more creative, stand out visually. But I think it's also important, like Nick said, is to kind of have these different content pillars as well. When you're just starting out, you want to try everything, but also see what your audience reacts to. So when you're starting out, create a bunch of content, see what you enjoy making, but also see what your audience enjoys making. And then you can kind of like take all that information together and then build out a big platform out of all of that.
And great. Sebastian's video is all about like all kinds of amazing visual effects, especially on TikTok and Instagram. And for Nick, one thing that I would I want to point out is one thing that I really like about your channel, which also explains why you have a lot of views, is your thumbnails. And this is a suggestion that you gave me just previously before this live stream. Like thumbnail is like the cover of a book. It's the first thing that users see. And if it's good, then you can stand out and user will click into it. Yeah. So, all right. Before we start our next question, I will first share my screen. Let me first put this down. Share my screen and do our very first giveaway. Draws.
All right.
Yep. I'm present. Share screen. Let me see. Giveaway tools. All right, so right now we have 31 entries. If anyone wants to join, please join right now. This is our very first giveaway draw. We'll have 2 others after this. Okay, let me start. 3, 2, 1.
Got my name in there too. Trying to get some extra credits over here.
I was like, shall
That
I
is cheating.
All
Oh,
right.
yay!
Woo!
Congratulations.
Ooh.
Watercolor, what's your grade? Beautiful name. Oh, wait. Background music. That's so great. That is one thing that I was missing from last live stream. Well, congratulations. I will reach out to you, or feel free to reach out to me via Discord after this live stream session. All right, let's go back to, we changed the layout. Let's go back to the next question. Here. Any tips
really
or
quick,
tricks?
Rebecca,
Go
for
ahead.
the winners of this, what is your Discord for them reaching out?
Oh, let me share our Discord channel.
Okay.
I'll share it later on in the comment box.
Okay, perfect.
So here's the second question. Any tips or tricks to increase live stream participation?
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to live streaming, first, just as a heads up, I have an entire playlist on the StreamYard YouTube channel that is just jam-packed with information like this about live streaming, so make sure that you check that out. But when it comes to getting more viewers in your live stream, of course, scheduling in advance is helpful, because then as people run across the stream, then they can decide if it's something they're going to be interested in or not. 2, streaming on a consistent schedule is also imperative to that. And the reason for that is because over time, people will learn, hey, you're streaming at this particular time. And then for the people that want to show up, they will. And for the people that are like, hey, I'm just kind of hanging out, I don't really have anything to do today, or maybe I have this, slot time open or whatever, some of those people will also, come in because they know that you stream at that time. So for example, I've got a live stream I do every Saturday at 9 a.m. Eastern, and everybody in my community knows that I do that religiously. And because of that, it's become a destination for people to where it's like, hey, it's a Saturday morning, I want to learn about YouTube, I'm going to go hang out in Nick's stream. So when you are live streaming consistently, then that sort of thing can happen. In addition to that, it's also important to make sure that you're thinking about, this is if you're live streaming to YouTube, to think about the replay value of your stream, because if you are only reliant on the live stream experience to build up your audience, then you only have that opportunity while you're live. But if you consider the replay and you structure your content for the replay, even though you're going live, then in that particular case, for the majority of the people that will end up experiencing it on the replay, then they'll get a taste of what your live stream is like, which can also encourage them to come in and join. And there's a little trick for this also. So when it comes to live streaming, a lot of people will have countdown timers, they'll have little shout out sessions and things like that. But one thing that you can do is you can do a reset. And what that is let's say you have the first 5 minutes of your stream, we're like, hey, welcome to the stream, this is what we're doing, blah, blah, blah. Then what you can do is you can reset it by saying, oh, hey, by the way, if you're just joining the stream, and then pause for just a second and then say, today we're, and then fill in the blank with whatever it is that you're doing in the stream. What that allows you to do is you can actually go back into YouTube's editor after your stream is complete, and you can use that reset as your cut point. So then when you cut the video there and you save it that way, the replay viewers are going to come into it, and what they're going to experience isn't going to be all the shout outs. It's not going to be the countdown timers. Their experience is going to be, hey, today we're doing X, Y, Z. And then that way it starts to create a better experience for them right out of the gate. So I would definitely keep those types of things in mind. Sebastien, any suggestions?
I know I'll add on top of that. I know you kind of spoke a little bit more about the YouTube side of things. For me, like Instagram and TikTok, the way I like to do my live streams and increase participation is, one, put out a bunch of stories. You could even put out a post if you wanted to kind of get some questions, and also be a little bit prepared, like come into your live stream with some questions that you can kind of talk to your audience about. I know it's a little bit one-sided sometimes if you're doing it on Instagram or TikTok, where it's just you talking to the audience. So having a list of questions that you can talk about, or some stuff that you've done maybe this week or last week, projects that you're talking about, just be a bit more prepared. And then on Instagram, you can use like the Q&A feature inside of Instagram, which is really great, because in the live stream, you can enable the Q&As, and then people can answer all your questions. And you can do a little bit like we've done here in StreamYard, where you can actually read the question. So if you're just tuning in and you have no idea what I'm talking about, you'll be able to read that question in the live, so you see exactly what I'm talking about. And again, that extra bit of like interaction where your audience can interact inside of your stream, and you can see it happening live as well because your question's being answered. And then, yeah, potentially even adding some background music. I like to add some background music because it helps to set the vibe a little bit, because I do like these little chill live streams. So we talk about what's happening, like up and coming stuff and all of that. So having a bit more atmosphere to the live just really helps as well, get people to continue watching. And like when I'm enjoying or watching other people's lives, I can put it on in the background, continue doing my work, and there's a bit of music, there's someone talking, I'm ingesting information, and it's just like a nice vibe overall. So yeah.
Great. Yes, so Kim says that all those are great tips. And Sebastien, you just mentioned music. And I remember someone from the comment section is asking whether OpusClip will ever support adding background music. This is postponed to early next year because we're making some more cool stuff. So definitely stay tuned for any updates in the coming 2 to 3 weeks. All right, next question from Rand. Opinions on the ratio number of long-form videos to that of short videos combination to most effectively grow a channel?
There isn't a combination. So when in terms of, do this many long form videos and do this many shorts, it really comes down to just where you're getting the response. So, at least as it pertains to YouTube, when you are publishing content to YouTube, and really any platform, everything is based on response. So if you make good content and people respond to it in a positive way, the platforms detect that, and then they continue showing it to more people because they're having a good experience on the platform. So it doesn't matter if you create that experience with long form content or short form content. If you're going to be publishing both, then you got to get good at both. And then at that point, it doesn't really matter in terms of the cadence that you put out, especially on YouTube, because when you publish a long form piece of content, then it's going to get distributed through YouTube's normal recommendation system. But when you publish a short, even though it can still show up in shorts, or I mean, even though it can still show up in search, and even though sometimes it'll also get recommended in the regular recommendation features, the real primary place that that's going to end up getting most of the traffic is going to be in the short shelf or from YouTube search, because when it comes to YouTube Shorts, they don't perform the best in recommendation features, and because of that, YouTube prioritizes the long form content. So what I recommend in this particular situation is having a really good content strategy that will define the reason that you're publishing everything it is that you're publishing to your channel. So for example, if you're publishing a piece of long form content, just know, okay, I'm publishing this long form piece of content because I want it to perform in recommendation features. I want to provide this specific value to the people that are interacting with it. In terms of my benefit, I'm hoping to, either generate affiliate revenue from this, or I'm hoping to, grow my subscriber base from this or whatever. But you give each piece of content a purpose, and the same exact thing applies to shorts. So if you are publishing to YouTube Shorts, same thing. When you're publishing a short, don't just publish a bunch of stuff for the sake of publishing it. Publish it with intention and think to yourself, okay, if I'm publishing this long form video on Wednesday, then in that particular case, maybe the short that I'm publishing is going to be something that would be complementary to this long form video, or maybe another long form video on my channel. And because of that, I'm going to use the link that shows up now directly on YouTube Shorts. And I'm going to mention that real quick when I get to the end of this particular, piece of content, so that I can also use that to try to drive people into my long form content as well. But keep in mind, if somebody's in the short shelf, they're in the short shelf because they want to be in the short shelf. So because of that, respect that and make content, that is appropriate for the short shelf. But just be intentional about everything it is that you are doing. And by doing that, it doesn't really matter in terms of this many shorts or this many long form pieces of content. What matters is what you're making, regardless of where you're putting it. Is it getting a positive response from the people that are interacting with it?
Yeah, agreed. And I've also got kind of like two sides to this coin, I guess. I think the kind of way you have to think about it is like, what's your objective really, and what kind of creator are you? And I think if you're a short form creator or a new creator, it really does depend. So like for me in particular, because I'm a short form creator, I created my YouTube channel because I want my long form videos to stand out from the short form. So the content itself is a little bit different. But then if you are a new creator and you haven't really started with YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, then I'd definitely recommend creating a lot more short videos rather than long form videos, because the ROI on that you're going to see is going to be much, much higher. But it also means that, you're going to be practicing creating content. You're going to be able to publish a lot more. You're going to kind of see what works for your audience, what doesn't work for your audience. And because you're not spending, let's say, for example, 4 hours, 5 hours creating a long form YouTube video, instead you're spending about an hour to create these short form videos, you can produce a lot more. You can develop your skills. You can become better at creating content. And then you can also find out what you prefer. But yeah, I think in terms of like the ratios, it depends what your objective is really, and what kind of content you want to get out there, and if you already have an audience. I would always say YouTube is always going to be that long run, like the marathon, whereas short form is very, temperamental. You can get a lot of views, but then you can also get less views. But then YouTube is like, it's always pretty much consistent. So it depends what kind of creator you are. If you're brand new, I definitely recommend a few more shorts over long form, just because you could create 5 shorts in time it would take you to create 1 video. But like Nick said as well, if you're making your long form videos, think of ways to make short form videos about those long form videos, and then within your YouTube feature you can link your shorts to your long form, and then kind of everything full circles. So you bring in traffic from different places and it all links together, which is great for your channel.
In a similar vein, here's another similar question. Do you plan your long form videos with short form content in mind? And I guess a similar question is, if so, how do you do it?
So for me, I actually, when I did do YouTube every week, I'd create the long form video and then I'd create short form videos linking back to that specifically. So I wouldn't repurpose the long form video and turn that into a short. I'd create specific short form content to that long form content, because in my eyes, as a short form creator, I can tell if a long form video has been repurposed into a short form. So the easiest way I do it, and I tell my clients to do it, is if you're making a long form video, create a few or write down a few extra hooks that you can use for your short form content. And then, because people are the attention span on TikTok on short form is, they're there for the first 5 seconds and then they'll decide whether or not they're watching that full video. So create a separate hook specific for short form, and then you can repurpose that from your long form. But yeah, I'd always recommend creating the short form videos and then, linking it to your long form to some extent.
Yeah, to follow that up, I don't at all. So like when it comes to my long form content, I don't consider shorts at all when I'm making my long form content, because my long form content is where like the real value is for me, because I can add links there, all that stuff, plus the watch time, all that stuff, like like everything is for the long form content. So for me, shorts are more of a supplementary thing. So when it comes to other channels, like I've got another channel that I publish shorts on over there almost daily using OpusClip. And with that particular channel by itself, that's creating its own resource as a shorts experience. But when it comes to my long form content, my main channel, on that particular channel, I focus the most on the long form content, because again, that's where, the biggest benefit comes from in terms of what I receive and what I can give viewers, because I can go deeper there than I can, in a piece of short form content. So because of that, I focus my efforts on the long form content for the long form content. But when it comes to the short content, I do consider for the videos that I publish, I consider, okay, if somebody's going to watch this, is there anything on my channel that would be a good fit for this viewer that I could hand somebody off to, or at least put that link there? But when it comes to the shorts channel, I link most of the stuff that's on that channel to a long form piece of content, if it's relevant or not, just for the sake of having that link and having a clear path into the long form content.
Yeah, and a little strategy if you are also a short form creator like myself wanting to get into YouTube. One strategy I used to use is I'd create my long form video, and then say, for example, it's 5 editing tips to improve your workflow, right? I'd then create a short form video, and then I'd give you 3 editing tips to improve your workflow. And then at the end of that short form video, I'd add a call to action. I've got 2 extra tips on my YouTube channel, go check it out, or full details, because obviously short form is short form content. You can't go in depth. I go in detail on my YouTube channel, go check it out, something like that. And then you can bring your audience from short form to long form, and it's a good way to grow your audience.
Great suggestion. Sophie has a question about background music. She worries that if, for instance, we're talking and there's background music, that it might be a distraction. And a similar question is, I do know that both of you would sometimes use background music. What tools do you use to find those music?
So I've worked with a lot of content creators, and one thing that I found is that when it comes to background music, some audiences respond better to it than other audiences. However, every audience responds to it if you're using it correctly. So there's a difference between, and I'm trying to kind of share this message everywhere right now, there's a big difference between cutting videos and editing videos. So anybody, any monkey with editing software can cut a video, right? Because all that is you're taking out, the silence, maybe you're adding some B-roll. But Sebastien, he edits videos. He creates an experience for his viewers. And when you are editing your content and you're creating an experience, what that means is maybe when you're in the recording process even, you are going to speed up your rate of speech. And as you're doing that, you have some background music that's also building up and creating that tension. And as it all rises, you're basically taking that particular segment to a climax, and then you drop the music, and then you make your point, and then you move on to the next part of it. Maybe you even slow it down a little bit there. Maybe you use music or you don't, but you can use music in a creative way to create a better experience with your content. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's just grabbing a song and then just having it go across the whole track, but using music in a way that where it actually adds to the experience, or it helps add emphasis or emotion or whatever it is that, whatever emotion that you're going for the particular segments of the video that you're working on. That's the best way to use music. But when it comes to just having something in the background, that can be helpful for, let's say, for example, you have an air conditioner running and you're processing your audio, but you still have a little bit of hum, coming through, or a little bit of noise that you can't get out or something like that. Having a soft music bed can, kind of help increase the perceived value of the content, or the perceived production value of the content, because then it would hide some of those types of things. And when it comes to music, we actually have a music service. It's called Creator Mix. It's free for content creators. You can use it in podcast and YouTube videos, TikTok videos, Instagram. Like, you can use it all over. But it's called creatormix.com. That's where we do our stuff. But I also use Epidemic Sound because their library is bigger. They have sound effects, all of that stuff. Those are the two main places that I use for background music.
Yeah, and I think just to add on top of what you said, music can be used in such a powerful way, and the same thing with sound effects, especially like, just easiest way to explain this is, if any of you have seen like motivational videos on TikTok or Instagram, wherever, that music really just impacts it so much more. Like, it makes you feel like, what you're reading or what you're seeing is just so much more powerful. And the same thing, like, I use this on my videos, even though it's not motivational. If I'm giving you a hook, and there's an impact or something like that, I'm gonna add an impact sound effects. I'm gonna add a riser, to elevate that journey and just kind of, bring you down. And then if I'm getting to a certain point, then I'll use different sound effects. And the same thing with music. Depending on what tempo you want that music to kind of resemble that as well, because then people will they'll understand and feel the message that you're trying to get across. So I think it can be used in a super powerful way. But again, if you're doing it the lazy way, like Nick said, you're just cutting it up and then adding background music, that doesn't really necessarily amplify your video. It doesn't bring much more value. So you have to be quite smart on the way you use it. And I've been watching a few videos on how some professional editors edit content for YouTubers. And nowadays, they're not even using one music track for a 5-minute video. They're using 10 or 5 different music tracks in that same 5-minute video, because there's different elements to that video, where there's the intro, there's the middle bit, there's the outro. All these sound effects play a huge role. But then again, that comes to that higher level of production. But when you're just starting out, try and find music that can help resonate with what you're trying to get across, and that will elevate your videos.
Yeah, aside from background music, another types of music is the sound effect. And I see a lot of live streamers and also content creators in general use sound effects specifically at specific points. Exactly, that's what Nick is doing. I wish I have the board to do it. But sound effect is extremely powerful and effective to hook your audience and enhance the watch time. And speaking of sound effect, Nick just used the sound effect while we were doing the giveaway. And now we'll do the second giveaway draw. If you want to enter, please type OpusClip in the comment box. Let me share my screen again, and let's do another one. All right, let's draw again. Yay!
Yay!
Congratulations! Congratulations. I'll reach out to you, or you can reach out to me via our Discord channel after this session, and I will add 10 hours of credits to your account. All right. That's great. Next question is from Brendan. How do you suggest people find their niche?
Yeah, so I'll start off with this, because I think when I first started, it's a little bit difficult. I think the easiest way to do it is just to create as much as you can, create stuff that you're passionate about, create stuff that you kind of see longevity in. If you enjoy cooking and you want to make all these fancy dishes and all of that, can you see that long term, I think is something that's really important. But I think in your niche, you should also find sub niches. And the way I kind of like to break it down is, every content creator should have, at least 4 content pillars. So for me, when I started out, it was all about editing and photography. So, things that go hand in hand with that: photography, editing, videography, video editing, photo editing, content creation space. I have all of these different things that I can dip my feet into, because, you are going to get bored to some extent throughout your whole content creation process, and you're not going to want to stick to the same thing every single time. So when I get bored of, like AI tools, for example, I'm going to start creating content about photography. And it just means that, I can widen my audience because I've got all these different pillars, but two, I can continue creating content that I enjoy, but it's still related to that core pillar. So just having a bit of variety is great and it helps you find your niche, and then you can just keep creating, really.
Yeah, my suggestion on that is, of course, you have to do things that you're interested in, because if you're somebody that's like, hey, let me just try this out for a few months, you can do whatever you want. But if you're somebody that's like, hey, I actually want to turn this into something cool, and I want to do this for a long period of time, I want to build like a brand around it, and I want to target a very specific group of people, with this, and add tons of value to that specific group of people, those sorts of things, and get known for something. It's really important to do things that you enjoy, because if you don't do stuff that you enjoy when it comes to making content, there will come a point in time, regardless of the results that you get, even if you end up with millions of subscribers on every single platform, if you don't enjoy the thing that you're doing, then you will hit that point to where you're like, man, I just don't want to turn on a camera, right? So because of that, it's important to make sure that you are picking things that you like. So my recommendation, this is also what YouTube recommends if you are uploading to YouTube, is to publish videos at first. If you have no idea, if you're like, you know what, I don't know what direction I want to go into, but I know that I want to start making content, publish videos to your channel only about things that you really, really care about. It can be anything. It doesn't matter. It can be, you can vlog, you can talk about, your food, you can show people how to make food, you can teach people stuff, whatever it is that you enjoy. But then if you notice, hey, when I make videos about this type of thing, they do substantially better than everything else that I'm doing, that means that YouTube has found the audience that responds to that particular type of content, and their recommendation as it relates to YouTube is to follow that. So basically, when you're making content about all the different things that you're interested in, when you have something take off and do substantially better, then they've got the audience for you. And the way that you're currently doing it, that's causing that response, that audience is responding to that. So their recommendation is that you actually follow that path when you do run across something that performs substantially better. But if you have a general idea of what it is that you want to get into, in that particular case, I recommend that if you have the ability to, or if you can, to start your experience as a content creator as whatever it is that you're trying to become. So, if you are wanting to, like Sebastien said, be somebody that is cooking, then in that particular case, claim it and be like, okay, I'm going to be a cooking, channel. I'm going to be a cooking creator, and I'm going to publish content everywhere about cooking. I'm going to be in all the Facebook groups about cooking. I'm going to be on the Discord groups about cooking, and just immerse yourself in those communities so that you can, better understand them and better understand what people need and all of that. And just serve those people like crazy, and just go all in on that thing that you really enjoy the most. Because the win with that particular approach is that every piece of content on your channel will be for a very specific type of viewer. And once YouTube does find those people that respond well to your content, then they have an archive of content. It might be 3 videos, it might be 5 videos, it might be 50 videos, depending on, how fast, your skills develop. But once they do find that audience for you, you have that archive of content that they can go in and enjoy, which means that originating video that does, that ends up kind of putting you on the map, once that video starts getting shown to people and they respond well to it, then YouTube will start recommending your archive of content to those people too. So because of that, when all of that content is relevant to the people that are interacting with that video that takes off, then it gives you a better, end result overall, and it makes all of that work that you put in at the beginning a lot more worth it in that particular case as well.
Yeah, and Sylvie put a comment saying, so is a mixture of subjects okay, even if it's not in line with the product you're selling? I think just to add on top of that, what Nick was saying is, it's okay to have different pillars, but I think at the end of the day, you kind of need to make sure that your pillars all link together. So, the easiest way you can think about it is, if I'm making something about photography or photo editing, and then I make a cooking video that's not related at all, and the way you want to think about it is, someone watched my video about photo editing, and then they go on my page and then they see a cooking video, it's not related. They're not necessarily going to follow you, all of that. But if they then see another video about video editing, for example, it's sort of related, it's in that same niche. So making different content is okay, but as long as it relates back and then people can binge watch your content, that's fine. But if it's going like, you're doing tennis and then you're doing cooking, unless you're in a vlogging channel, that doesn't really make sense, and that's less likely to get people to follow you or subscribe to your channel.
Yeah, and another way to think about that too is instead of thinking of it like what niche am I in, it's helpful to think about what audience am I serving. Because if you think about who it is that you're trying to serve with your content, then it can make those questions easier to answer. Because in that particular case, for example, you might make cooking content and you might think that that's your niche, but are you making cooking content for chefs and teaching, professionals how to do better? Are you making content for busy professionals that, that can only, have a handful of minutes or, a little bit of time when they get home from work to make like a really good and healthy meal? Are you making meals for people that have families? They need to make a lot of food on a budget. Like when you start defining like, hey, this is who it is that I'm after, then it can kind of help make those questions a lot more, the answers to those questions a lot more clear when you wrap it all around an audience that you're trying to serve.
I think Brendan also said it very well, that it's almost like pillars on a larger level, and let the audience and the algorithm help you decide. Speaking of algorithm, I think everyone's is curious or interested about this. What is the best way to implement SEO? And in this case, it's for podcast style videos.
Do you want this, Sebastien, or you want me to take it?
I'm not a big podcaster, so I don't think I'll have much info on that.
Okay, I got it. So when it comes to podcasts, a couple of things that you want to think about is the first is that a big mistake that podcasters make is they typically optimize for the guest. So that's helpful if the guests are really famous people. But in a lot of cases, the people that are, interviewed in a bunch of different industries, they're not like famous. And because of that, when you optimize everything around the guest, you're creating a barrier to entry to that content, to where the person has to already be familiar with that guest in order to even care about the content in the first place. However, when you optimize around the topics themselves, the things that you've talked about in the episodes, even better if you isolate it to a specific thing, then in that particular case, then it broadens up who that content can resonate with, because everybody cares about a specific topic, but when it comes to a person, there's going to be a lot less people that care about a specific person unless they're super famous. So because of that, making sure that you're optimizing for topics is really important. Also making sure that you are leveraging, like if you're on YouTube, making sure that you are leveraging their new playlist feature to identify that your podcast is indeed a podcast that you're putting on a YouTube channel, because then that will also help it show up over in the music section for people that are looking for podcasts and are actually looking for stuff to listen to. But when it comes to SEO in general, the whole idea is that you target search terms that are lower competition and high volume search, so that you have a better chance of showing up in that particular case. But when it comes to YouTube specifically, one thing that's really important to make sure that you remember is, just like every other surface on the platform, everything is based on response. So even if you optimize everything perfectly in terms of the metadata, you still have performance that you have to rely on. And the complication that creates when it comes to podcasts, especially on YouTube, is like, let's say that let's say you have a podcast about cooking, since we've been talking about cooking a lot. So you have this podcast about cooking, and you're like, hey, I'm going to optimize for, best meals that people could be making for their families. Well, in that particular case, you also have to remember that there's going to be a lot of people that are looking for video content about that. And a lot of the video content that they're going to run across is going to be, 10 to 15 minutes long for something like that, maybe 20 minutes. So if you're asking them to commit to an hour-long podcast where you're not really showing anything, you're just talking about it, then in that particular case, the value that they're going to get from it's not going to be the same. And because of that, the videos are probably going to outrank you there, because that's what people are going to respond to. So because of that, a lot of SEO in any capacity, it doesn't matter if you're podcasting, if you're doing videos, or even if you're, trying to get blog posts to show up, a lot of SEO comes down to the research beforehand, before you actually make the content, so that you can make sure that you are targeting the right things in terms of high search volume, but low competition. Other things that you can do as well when you have podcast style videos is you have the long video, right? And then through OpusClip, you can make short form content to get that, to get yourself in front of a lot of people that would have never clicked on the long form video, because you just happen to people in shorts, right? So when it comes to the vertical content on all these platforms, you just show up like you're removing a barrier to entry in terms of the skill set that you need to be able to help people identify that your content's something that they care about and then compel them to click on it. So since you just show up in the shorts feed, using OpusClip to, make a bunch of shorts from your podcast and then uploading those as a discovery mechanism to bring attention to your podcast in the shorts feed is really smart, and you should be doing that. In addition to that, if your content supports it in terms of if you talk about things in segments, then in that particular case, follow the Joe Rogan example and also make clips for your podcast. So then you're also in that scenario again to where you're lowering the barrier to entry on the time side. So then if you have an hour-long podcast, you have shorts going out, right, to get in front of new viewers, to where if they're interacting, YouTube's recommendation system will put you in front of people to where you don't even have to compete in search. And the recommendation system is where all the traffic is on YouTube anyway. The search still has its thing, right? In search-based content, it's still a thing. But a lot of people go after search that should be going after recommendations. And I would guess that your podcast would probably be one of those. So making shorts for the short shelf, having your long form podcast so that people that want to listen to it can, and then having clips out of your podcast that you publish as individual videos on your channel as well, so that you're lowering the risk for people when they come in, because then they only have to spend 5 or 10 minutes on a clip compared to an hour long listening to the entire podcast. So I would definitely take that approach when it comes to growing a podcast on YouTube.
You mentioned SEO, like searching for SEO keywords or training words. What kind of tools do you use to search?
TubeBuddy's fantastic for that. You can also go to the YouTube autocomplete. So you can do this on TikTok as well, to where you start, typing something in. I think TikTok does this. Sebastien, clear me on this if so. But basically where you start typing something in and then they start showing you other things that people have searched for. Does TikTok do that too?
It does to some extent, yeah.
Okay. So on YouTube, you can do that to where you just go to the search bar and you start typing in different things around what it is that you are planning to make. And then they'll show you a drop down that will show you ways that people are looking for that, or things within that people are looking for. So that's also a good starting point as well. But yeah, TubeBuddy's great for that. And just using the autocomplete is another way to just kind of figure out what people are looking around for and what people are caring about.
Perfect. Next question. What's the about frequency of posting? Should you do a short topic in a day, like 4 or 5, or posting 4 different topics over 5 days?
I think, again, it depends what kind of creator you are. If you're one of the creators who's posting multiple times a day, then that's completely fine. But then, it comes down to the quality versus quantity type argument. As this is my full-time job, I don't want to be pushing out so much content that's just going to flood my audience. It's going to annoy them. It might not be that relevant. Instead of doing 4 or 5 different videos over a topic, just do one really high quality, short and snappy, straight to the point, because that's going to engage a lot more people. You're removing all that fluff out of your video. It's higher quality. That's the easiest way to say it. I think spend more time on your content and you'll definitely see the results. Whereas if you're just, posting 5 or 10 videos a day, platforms don't necessarily like that. I know YouTube doesn't like it if you're posting so many videos. TikTok kind of did favor it at the start. I think it's slowed down a little bit. And then Instagram, Instagram's a little bit more prestigious, where you don't want to be flooding too much content, because it's like a special, I guess people deem Instagram as like the special baby social media platform. So yeah, I just always do higher quality content rather than, spamming it out.
Yes. I want to add something. My approach to it was for the first, when I started out a channel, I would usually put like 4 to 5 at different times of the day for a week or several weeks. And after those days, I would see which time period has the most engagement. I think that would tell you a lot, like whether at which time you should post on different platforms and the frequency of posting.
Yeah, and I think also what we can add on this is there's also different ways you can do this. I know some TikTok and short form content experts say to do this is, if you've got a brilliant idea in mind, right, create 4 or 5 different hooks, and then you can either post that one video, that one hook, or you can post the same video 5 times with the 5 different hooks. And then once one has started to pick up, you can then delete it, all the other ones, because one's finally picked up. So that's a little strategy that you can do when you're just starting off. But again, I would be a little bit cautious with that. You don't want to be spamming too many people. But it's kind of like the A/B testing that you can do on YouTube thumbnails, where people will rotate their thumbnails to see which ones are getting more clicks. And there's AI tools that can now like tell you, what are the best clicks and all of that. So, it's worth, there's no right or wrong answer to do this, but I think it's just worth experimenting, see what works. And like Rebecca said, if you're just starting out, post at different times, see what times perform best for you. And then, you're just starting out, so you need to know what to do, and testing is the best way to do it.
Chris has a question. So he has around 160K TikTok followers and stopped posting because his content doesn't get pushed. Is there a thing as being shadow banned, or it's just his content?
Funny you asked that. Actually, this week I've been getting a little bit annoyed at Instagram. I feel like I'm shadow banned, but I know I'm not shadow banned. The reason I say that is my videos are reaching about 30,000 views per post, which is pretty low for me, especially in the first 24 hours. And the engagement is really low. I'm getting about 1,000 likes per post this week. And it's frustrating me a little bit. And I did a little test yesterday to see if I could break this, where I reposted a very popular video of mine, which every time I've reposted it, it's always done really well. But then funnily enough, yesterday it didn't do well. So I think there's nothing, shadow ban isn't really a thing unless you violate community guidelines, but you can check on Instagram, for example, if you have violated any guidelines. But I think the main factor which kind of puts into play here is, all these social media platforms are always changing their algorithms. And, also it depends on what period of time you are in the year. Like, for example, now we're in Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Christmas time. There's a bunch of ads popping up all over Instagram, TikTok. It's getting saturated with all these feeds, like all these paying, brands are paying big money to push out their content. So the organic reach is going to get low. And then, all these different variables that you have to kind of think of, you just need to push through it. You'll get over that hump and then you'll be back to normal. Like, I'm a little bit discouraged, but I know it's normal. And again, like, the algorithms are always changing. Like, for me, the views are a little bit down, but the story views have like 5 times more views than usual. So, you can kind of tell that they're trying things. So don't worry. If you've got like a really great video that you want to post and you're worried it's not going to get many views, wait until your views are back to normal and then post that video, or post it again once your views are back. It doesn't really matter in the long run.
Other things that that can also be a factor in that, especially around this time of the year, like Sebastien was saying, is because more companies are advertising, a lot more content creators get more aggressive around this time of year, which means that there's more content going onto the platforms, which means that the platforms have more inventory to show people. So your competition is higher. So there's that, side of things as well, just as something to consider in terms of, something that might be impacting, what it is that you're doing.
I have one similar question. I do notice that a lot of times when I post videos on TikTok, the views always stays like in between 200 to 300 and just never breaks.
Yeah. So the way this used to work, I don't know if it still is the case because I'm a bigger account now. The way views kind of work on TikTok is it's kind of staggered. So basically, once you post your video, TikTok will then show it to a certain amount of people, maximum maybe 200 people. And then if it gets enough watch time, retention, likes, engagement, comments, all of that, it's only going to put that in that next bracket. Let's say, for example, 1,000 views. If it continues with that good retention time, watch time, engagement, it's then going to put it up to that next level. So kind of think of it as like a pyramid, starts really small, like an upside down pyramid, starts small and then it gets bigger, 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 bigger. So the more watch time you get, retention and all that engagement, that factors in, and then it, you get to these different stages where TikTok is going to show your content to other people.
Okay, that's great to know. Last few questions. First, I think this is about YouTube. What's the value in creating a separate channel specifically for shorts?
These days, it's not really a thing. So if you're going to be publishing, shorts and long form, just put it on the same channel. Same thing goes with live streaming. But the idea is that because you'll see people online talking about, oh, I publish shorts and you don't hurt my channel, things like that. But as long as you are staying consistent with the quality of what it is that you're putting out with your long form content, as long as both are targeted towards the same, audience that you're trying to reach, then in that particular case, you can put long form videos, you can put short form videos, you can put shorts on your channel, you can do live streams, you can do it all, as long as everything's targeted towards the same audience, and as long as doing more doesn't cause you to do less in terms of the content that you are publishing. Because like Sebastien mentioned a second ago, when it comes to all of this stuff, quality is super important. And it's not necessarily, in all cases, like, just your camera quality, because, there's plenty of content creators out there that just make videos on their phone with no microphone and they do great. However, the quality is determined by the people that are interacting with the content. So if you start putting out, like if you ramp everything up and you're like, wait a minute, like my response is getting lower, then it could be that you are just trying to get out more content. And because of that, you're just more busy now and you're not spending as much time, on the content that was resonating a little bit more with the people that are interacting with it before. But the way things are now, like when they first published shorts or when they first released it, everybody was like, yep, not touching it on the same channel. But now, everybody's bringing it all back into their main channels, because it is a great way to get in front of new viewers, for your channel.
Yeah, and I think YouTube's kind of encouraging creators to post on their main channels. And also I think one way I kind of think about it is I very rarely watch a YouTube short on desktop. So kind of think about it, if you're posting on your channel, if you're going on YouTube as a user, a consumer, on your computer, you're going on there to watch long form content, not necessarily short form. You might get into that rabbit hole where you end up on short form content on your desktop, but then if you're on your phone and then you open up YouTube, you'll probably watch YouTube shorts. So there is kind of two different viewers in the sense, if you're viewing on your desktop, you're there for long form. If you're viewing on your phone, you're there for short form. So your viewers are going to consume different types of content, just like TikTok and Instagram is mainly on your phone. So you're getting that quick content. That's what you're there to expect. So I think it all depends on what platform you're viewing your content. So I don't think there's any real reason to create a separate channel anymore.
Okay, one last question, and it has to do with engagement. I do see several people posting this. I'll put this up. So it says on Instagram, and I think a lot of platforms, it's recommended that as soon as you post a video, you need to send it to friends to comment or engage in general. Is YouTube the same, or is this a general good practice?
So I can't speak for. Go ahead, Sebastien.
I was going to take the Instagram side of it, and then
that's what I was about to say. I was like, I can't speak for those.
So I think when Instagram first released, it was recommended that you share your reels to your stories and all of that, because at the time it counted your story views as real views, but now they've kind of confirmed that this doesn't, or that, that was the myth that people were saying. Instagram said that no, this isn't the case, and I've also spoken to someone at Instagram and they clarified this and said, yes, your story views when you reshare your reels do not count as real views. But I wouldn't recommend, sending your content to your friends and, via DM and all of that, because it kind of goes back into that old period where it's the engagement pods. Instagram is smart, TikTok is smart. Like, they know that you're sending your content, and like on TikTok, if you share your content, there's a little number where you can see how many times it's shared. These platforms are smart. They've built these softwares. They know what's happening. So if you're sending it to an external source, they're going to be like, they're getting all this traffic from WhatsApp or whatever. And that's, YouTube, with YouTube, you can see that in your analytics. You can see when traffic's coming to YouTube from WhatsApp or other platforms. So I wouldn't encourage it. I think in the long run, it damages your content. It gives it inauthentic engagement. And that's the same thing with what's happening on Instagram at the moment, where people are using ManyChat, which is a tool where you can comment the word Opus, for example, and then people will comment that in your video, and then it's a bot which automatically DMs that person with a link. That kind of creates fake engagement. And I think it kind of makes your account seem a bit spammy and botty. And these platforms know that you're sending all these traffic and all these links, you're messaging all these people. So I think it doesn't create like that real audience. It's a bit fake. I think it damages you in the long run. It's great if you're just starting out, but then, once you get to a bigger size, I would avoid it completely.
Yeah, and when it comes to this, like I said, I've been doing this for 9 years, and one thing that I've learned is that just because I see so many people trying to do it, you can't game the systems. You can't shortcut the process. Like if you want results out of what it is that you're doing, and I know that this, sucks to hear, like, especially if you're like, man, when I upload stuff, I don't get much activity on it. But like when you're wanting to do this stuff and you're wanting to get the result from it, you have to learn the core skills to be able to do the thing. Like you can't shortcut making content that people enjoy, because all of the platforms, here's what they want. They want to show the right content to the right people at the right time so that people will enjoy the experience on the platform, so they'll keep coming back, so they can keep either making money from the paid accounts like YouTube Premium, or so they can keep serving people ads. That's all they want. So when you're trying to game the system, what you're doing is you're trying to shortcut some of the core things that you need to do in order to get a good response from what it is that you're doing. You're essentially trying to trick the systems into thinking that people are engaging with what it is that you're doing, instead of creating content that people will engage with naturally. So because of that, I really recommend, and I know it's tempting, and I know that it's like, man, I just, I want this to go faster, and I trust me, I've known this for a long time. I know what it feels like. But when it comes to, long-term results on what it is that you're doing, you got to learn the core fundamentals, and you have to go through the process of learning how to do the thing and make content that people respond to well. And once you crack that nut, so to speak, then you don't have to worry about doing that other stuff, because then people will be responding to what it is that you're doing, and you don't have to really worry about it anymore. But instead of doing those types of things, I would just focus on, like learning how to edit, learning how to present your content, learning how to come up with good video ideas, learning how to, target the right people that you're after. Like focus on those core things so that you can, continually get results over a really long period of time. When you publish, to where you don't have to share it anywhere, you don't have to ask anybody to watch it, you just make good content, and then people will respond to it, and you won't have to do any of that stuff.
Yeah, I think one thing that I think Nick will agree with this is, if you're showing your content to a user, the thing that you need to understand is that YouTube, for example, tracks the user's activity, the viewer's activity. So if they're on YouTube, they're watching a bunch of videos, YouTube's like, okay, then the retention time on this is good. They're watching other videos, they're watching videos from the same creator. But then if you send them a link and be like, hey, watch this video, give it a thumbs up, comment, and then they swipe away, that's a straight indication to YouTube. This viewer did not find that video interesting, because they went on it for 5 seconds, they liked it or whatever, swiped away, closed the app. So you're really damaging your watch time, your retention, which is one of the most important factors to telling YouTube's algorithm that this content is good. So if you're doing that, and then, if it's not a family member, it's a random friend or someone in a random group, like an engagement pod, they'll like it, they'll watch it for 5 seconds, swipe away, but that's a red flag to YouTube. It's like, this video isn't getting the watch time, it's not keeping the viewer on the platform, which is YouTube's main priority. They want to serve you more ads, so they want you to stay on the platform for longer. So if you're doing that and they swipe away, that tells YouTube, nope, we're not going to recommend this video.
Yep. And to make it even worse, because you mentioned the recommendation system, like not only is that telling them that people aren't responding well to your videos, but when you have people coming into your content because you're sharing it with them that wouldn't normally engage with what it is that you're doing, you're also confusing the systems, because then the system thinks, if they do end up watching it, the system thinks like, oh, hey, this type of user is a good candidate for this video because they enjoyed it. So therefore, let's find other people on the platform that are like this viewer and show the content to them. And then those people don't respond to it because they're not the type of person that would actually watch your content. So you really complicate the entire thing when you work against yourself when you're doing that kind of stuff.
Okay, great. Great answer. I need to put that section into OpusClip and create a short and watch it every single day, so that the message really comes in. Okay, we're nearing the end of the session. Let me share my screen again and do the last round of giveaway. So this is your last chance of winning the 10 hours credits. If you haven't, please enter OpusClip in the comment box and make sure that the ONC is capitalized and there's no space in between Opus and Clip. All right, with that, I'll do the last draw.
I've entered this time.
Yeah, I came in late. I just put it in there. I was like, oh man, I was sleeping on that one.
Yay!
All right.
Congratulations, Charlie. Oh. And a special background, the special sound effect for you. All right, perfect. before we end, I want to quickly answer some of the product questions, even though this is not for the OpusClip. So we can right now push to all social media platforms. For scheduling, you can only schedule to YouTube right now. We will support scheduling to other platforms, including TikTok and Instagram, and I believe it's by end of this month. Yes. And for this, we do not really have a limit as to the length of the video. We have a length limit, which is no more than 3 hours. But you can put like even a 10-second video to OpusClip. All right. And in 2 weeks, we're going to launch something super, super special and extremely big. It will be one of our biggest launches. So do stay tuned. I will definitely keep everyone posted. And before we leave, Sebastien and Nick, do you have any last words that you want to say with our audience?
Yeah, if you're looking to start becoming a content creator, now's the best time to start. You've got all these short form platforms, stick at it, be consistent. The more you create, the better you'll get, the more audience you'll grow. And then you'll find out what you truly like making, and then you can hopefully become a full-time content creator like me and Nick.
Yeah. Yeah, and in addition to that, it's also important to know that, this stuff isn't easy. If it was easy, then everybody would, have huge followings and all that stuff, and they would get like massive results. So because of that, just make sure that, even though it's like, hey, I just want to, publish things and get things out there, make sure that you are always working on developing the skills around doing the thing, because it's those skill sets that are going to keep notching you up and keep getting you farther and further. So for example, if you're just getting started, it might take you 2 weeks to edit a video like Sebastien does, right? But after you've been doing that for a long time, how long does it take you to edit a video, Sebastien?
I've got editors now. But
okay, if you were to do it, how long would it take you?
A short form video, it would now take me maybe an hour. When I first started, it would take me 5 hours.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so just hang in there, right? Like just keep working on those skills, because, those, like the work gets easier. Doing the thing doesn't get easier, but doing the work itself, does get easier as you get systems in place, as you learn where all the buttons are on your software and, things like that. When it comes to all these things, one way that I like to present this is that, this content creation thing, it's a learning curve, just like playing an instrument, right? So when you, let's say that you are just getting started in creating content, when somebody just gets started in playing an instrument, let's say it's a guitar. In that particular case, first they got to figure out what guitar they want to play. Do they want to play an electric guitar, a banjo? Do they want to play an acoustic guitar? Like, what is it they want to play? Then they got to figure out the type of music they want to play. They got to get their fingers to work right. They have to, sit there and practice and practice and practice and practice for hours and hours and hours and hours and days and years in some cases, in order to, start being able to play really, really good. So when it comes to creating content, it's the same thing. It's just a learning curve that you have to go through. And if you're committed to, if this is something that you want to do either as a hobby or you want to do it professionally, just commit to the learning curve and embrace it, because it's really easy to get frustrated. It's really easy to be like, man, I've been doing this for 6 months and I'm not blowing up yet. So because of that, I just want to throw in the towel. If it's something that you want to do, keep going, because the only reason that you're not getting the results that you want is because there's either something that you need to learn that you're, or some things that you need to learn that you're overlooking right now, or it's skills that you need to develop. It's those two things. So because of that, just hang in there and keep at it and just keep working on the skill sets.
Yeah, and one thing that might help for me, I personally bought a custom neon sign which says "Don't stop, just create." And every time I walk into my office, I see that, and I'm like, "Yes, let's do it." So something that can motivate you might even help you. So
yes, Empower Entrepreneur said the secret is editors.
Yeah, totally.
No, the real secret.
Yeah.
The real secret. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say, it's all well and good to get an editor, but you need to know how to edit your content before you get one, because you can hire an editor, but they're going to have no idea how to edit your content, and you're going to have no idea how to teach them. I have 5 different editors, and I've taught them, I've mentored them. They know exactly what I want and how I want it, because I've showed them the way. I've given them the rope. So you need to learn everything before you start outsourcing, because then it's not going to get done to how you want. And of course, there's different extents to that, but when it comes to your content, that's what matters the most. That's what everyone's going to see. So you need to perfect it, and then you can start outsourcing.
And it helps you be able to see what good is. because, you know, like through that development of learning how to do the thing, it also helps you like learn what good is, because some people will look at something and they'll think it's amazing, but it's complete garbage. And then sometimes people will, you know, look at something and they'll be like, oh man, that's kind of rough. It needs work, but it might, you know, actually be pretty good. So like when you know, go through that process, you'll also learn, you'll also be able to identify what good is a lot easier as well.
I just want to add, I think the real secret is to follow Sebastien Jefferies and Nick Nimmin on their social media platforms. They have all sorts of amazing tricks and tips coming out on a weekly basis about video editing and growth. Yeah, BK says would love to have more like this. Definitely would love to. But Sebastien is in UK, right? Are you in?
I'm in the UK, yeah, just
Yeah, you're
outside
in
London.
UK. In London, and Nick is where are you in, Nick?
Yeah, I'm in Thailand. It's 3 a.m. where I am right now.
Yeah. So really appreciate Nick. Next time we will do for this kind of growth related sessions, we'll do it earlier, maybe like 9 a.m. PST, so that everyone Nick will have more energy. Not that you don't have energy right now, you have so much energy. Respect to that. All right, with that, really appreciate everyone's time here, and especially Nick and Sebastien. We will see you next time. All right, have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.
See you later.
Take care.
Bye.